Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Christy and I am a licensed hairstylist. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how to achieve long face framing layers. And what I intended to do was 3 videos. One where I just established the basic length, which that video is up. The second video was where I established how to make long layers that just blended in really well with the hair, especially for people who have maybe fine hair or not that much density. And then in the third video, I was going to do face framing layers, which I did today, and also a curtain bang. But I decided to split that up because this may be where you want to end. This may be good enough for you. But I'll have another video coming up where I actually explain how to do the curtain bangs. So if you want to see how I achieve this and how I parted my hair, how I positioned my fingers, where I put my scissor and the elevation and all that good stuff, well, keep on watching. To start off, I'm going to tell you what you're going to need for this haircut. You're going to need a comb, a rat tail comb, any kind of comb where you can make nice clean sections and part your hair. Hair clipped, any kind, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And you're going to need a hair tie to be able to tie the back of your hair, which we're not going to be using in this haircut. Most importantly, a scissor for cutting hair and a water bottle, but if you don't have one, just keep on wetting your hair so it doesn't dry off and you don't have different kinds of lengths, because when the hair dries, the length comes up a bit. So you want to keep your hair nice and wet so everything remains the same length. But what you're going to have to do first is part your hair from the top of your head to your ear. Now I'm going to grab all that hair in the back that I'm not going to be using for this cut. Tie it up with anything that you have that can hold your hair back and separate it from the front. You're going to see a common theme in how I part my hair when I'm doing face framing layers and when I'm doing bangs, any kind of bangs. So I'm going to make a triangle in the front of my head, right by my forehead. But depending on how far you want to go back, that's how thick these layers are going to be. So if you want them to have more density and you want more hair there and you want it to look like chunkier, you can go back further. But I like to keep it maybe like 1, maybe like 2 inches back at most. And so I'm going to go from there and I'm going to make a triangle. And that triangle is going to end right by the arch of my brow. So it should look something like this. So just for now, I'm just going to move this hair back. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that that triangle, and keep in mind that I parted my hair in the middle. So now that other triangle on the other side has to meet up with the point of the triangle on this side. So what I'm going to do is bring it down again and bring it down to the same spot. Okay, so now that I have that established, I'm going to tie this back and just get it out of the way. Now I'm going to make another section. I'm going to make a line almost diagonal going with, so it kind of goes with the natural fall of my hair. I'm going to make a diagonal line, maybe like another inch back from the top of that triangle, and I'm going to bring that down to my ear. Now this hair, I'm going to keep it out of the way for now because I might need it later. So I'm just going to hold it back. This section eventually is going to catch up to this section. But what you want to always keep is the length by the perimeter, right above your ear. This is what's going to keep the length that's going to match up with the back of your hair. So this is a length that you don't want to cut into. What I mean by that is that if you were to pull all of this forward the way we're going to be cutting, the thing that should happen is exactly that. It should fall out. So since I know, if done correctly, that is going to happen, since I would like you to be able to do this at home, I would say, let's just take it out. So now basically what I'm doing is I'm going to play it safe and I'm going to tie this away. I don't want this to be in this part of the haircut because I want to keep it safe. So I'm also going to tie that back. So now I'm just going to do the same parts on this side. I'm going to make that diagonal line all the way to my ear. So here's the area that I'm not going to cut on this side, and I'm also going to get it out of the way. So for now, we'll just set this back and set this back because we're going to be working with the front sections. So where do I want this to come to? I'm going to grab a piece from the front and just part it like this. And I'm going to say, well, I want it to come right down to here. I would like it right down, right to this part of my neck. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift it up like this. Notice how my fingers are looking straight at the ceiling. And I'm doing this to establish the line, but I also don't want it to be heavy. So when I elevate my fingers like this, I'm taking the heaviness out of it. So now that I measured it, I'm going to keep it like this, use from the floor to the ceiling, and then I'm going to cut straight up. And now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a little piece of hair from here, from that first triangle that I made, just to set it in the other side as well. And since I have a guide, I don't have to measure it. Again, because I could just follow this guide and cut. Now what you want to do, you're not grabbing this yet, you're going to take this and you're going to hold it on that angle again, on that elevation of hair. If you have a normal density of hair, your hair isn't very thin, you can go higher or keep it like this, like almost at a 90-degree angle. Sometimes if people have very thin hair, what they'll do is just cut the angle at 0 degrees straight down, and that's okay as well. But I want it to be a little softer, so I'm just gonna elevate my hands just a bit, and I'm gonna bring it out. Now I found my guide, right? You have to be able to see it. If you don't see it, that means you're grabbing too much hair at a time. I can see it right here. Now I'm not gonna cut it straight forward like that. I could do that, but I want to have more length as it goes towards the back. I want it to fall that way. So when you want your length to be longer, you're gonna take the hair and move it furthest away from that area. So if I want this side to be longer, I am going to pull the hair and over direct it past my nose to the other side of my face. Now, instead of coming in and cutting from the top, I'm gonna make sure I'm cutting not on top of my fingers, if not on the bottom. And I'm going to come in from the bottom up, not from the top. Because when you come in from the top, you're not playing it safe if you're not used to doing something like this. So you want to come in from the bottom. It's easier to go from longer to shorter than from shorter to longer. And I could kind of see as long as I want it to go. And I also can make it longer, not only by over directing my fingers, but I can also do it by bringing it a little lower, a little less elevation. And I'm also going to put my fingers like this. They're not straight up like we cut the first piece. They're going to be on an angle, obviously to where I want it the longest. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in from the bottom and I'm going to meet that guide. And you can already see, let me move this, how it's starting to form. I could go in a little bit more. So I'm going to go in a little bit more and angle my fingers maybe a little less. There we go. So now I'm going to take the other side before I grab this one, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So there's my guide again. I can see it, it's right here. So now I'm going to keep my fingers a little elevated, bring it down to find that guide, and work my way up. You always have to go in and check. This is what makes the haircuts perfect. So let's see if we see that angle that we want to see. And if you can see it, they look pretty good. What about these two sides? Are they the same? Because now these have to be perfectly measured together, because now these new longer pieces are my new guidelines. I'm not going to keep on going using the shortest part as my guide, because then this would just come out too short. My new guide is that end point from that triangle that I did in the beginning. Now I'm grabbing that whole piece, leaving out that little triangle that I'm just going to call our safety net. Some people will take this all at once and just cut it, but I think especially if you're doing it at home, if you've never cut hair before, you should just go piece by piece, little by little, not cutting off too much. So now I'm just going to move this over because I don't need this piece anymore. This is not my guide anymore, so I'm just going to move it over, and I'm just going to put it right here behind my ear. And now I'm going to elevate this a bit as well. Comb it until you can find your guide. This is my guide right here, and I have to be able to see it, because if not, this is not going to end well. So I want to bring it out like this, spread it out. You want to spread it out so you can see everything. Now I'm going to pass my nose again. I'm going to over direct, and I'm going to cut from the bottom up until I meet what I have to meet, which is that guide. So if I see anything that I want to get rid of, you can just like look at it and kind of make it look like that perfect angle. This back piece that I left out, I can see how that's gonna look. So when I measure this up, I can see there is not, like, it doesn't look like there's a very short layer and then there's that piece that I left out. No, it looks good. Before I grab this back piece, I'm gonna finish the other side, which is exactly the same process, but just on the other side. So now we established that this is going to be the longest length on this triangle, just like the other side is going to be my new guide. So it's right here. So I really don't need this piece, so I'll just comb it away to this side. And now I'm going to grab this whole piece, and I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to comb it forward, make sure I see it. And what I'm going to cut is enough to bring me to the bottom. So I'm going to bring it to the front, over direct the hair, incline my fingers, and I'm going to start from the bottom up. So I'm going to go in from the bottom, and I'm going to work my way up. So when I comb it down, I should see the angle that I have on this side, which is kind of dry. So I'm gonna wet it so now we can measure it. I'm just gonna comb it all forward, and I'm gonna measure the ends. So when you comb these both down, they should look exactly the same. If they don't, go in again, and you could just bring your hair down like this and just see if there's something that you think might look better if you cut a little bit more. Keep in mind also, when you bring your hair over, the further that you bring direct your hair to the other side, the more you incline your fingers, the sharper the shape is going to be. So you never want to do this. This is what you never want to do. You never want to bring in your fingers and cut straight. You always have to incline your fingers. You're never going to just put them in horizontally, because that's exactly the kind of line you'll get. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let go of this piece, and I'm going to let go of this triangle that I had, and see how that all measures out, and measure them, and they look okay. So now I'm going to let go of this side, this piece that I have tied up. Here it is. So you could totally stop layering right here. You don't have to go any further back if all you want is something soft in the front. What I'm going to do to measure that back piece that I just let go is I'm going to comb it all to the front and over direct it again to the other side, and see how this measures up. happen is those bottom hairs should fall out, because I don't want to touch that. I've been taking care of that, right? I don't want to touch that. I'm just going to cut a tiny bit. That just helps the hair connect a bit more and kind of have even a smoother falling effect when I comb it to the back. Just have a little bit more of a layer. So I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to let that piece go. And now again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to comb it all forward, over direct it, and incline my fingers again, and just measure it. And again, you don't have to do that. And what you want to happen, you want these hairs, the hair closer to the perimeter, to fall out. There they go. And there's that same little bit that I cut on the other side. I'm going to cut it on this side. So once you finish layering the front, I'm sure you've seen it done in salons or maybe in other videos. They continue taking parts of hair from the back and combing it forward, and making it meet. And what they're doing is layering the back and make it connect. But we already layered the back. Well, I already layered the back in my last video, so I don't have to layer it again. I'm happy with the way that turned out, so I'm not going to connect it. If you have no layers in your hair and you just did some front layering, you don't have to do that either. You don't have to go back any further than either the front part or the whole side sections. You could just keep it there and your hair will still look lovely. So I'm gonna go style this, dry it and all that, and I'll be right back to show you how it turned out. Okay guys, I'm back, and this is how I styled it. And I love the way these front layers fall. I like them more than I thought I was gonna like them. So I want you to keep in mind a few things. The way we sectioned the hair. Now, if you do that and you section your parts carefully, you'll be able to do this haircut easily. You can also do it by just grabbing the whole thing at once and cutting, but I wouldn't advise it, especially if you don't have a lot of experience cutting hair. That may make it a little bit more difficult, and you're not leaving too much room for error. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this haircut before I did any kind of curtain bang is because if you see the way this falls, it falls similar to the way a curtain bang would if you went like this and just styled it the way I styled it in the middle and then just push it forward. So what I see happening now is that long face framing layers are being kind of used as curtain bangs. So if you go up a little bit shorter and face frame a little bit shorter, you'll have more of a bang. But sometimes you may think you want curtain bangs, but then you end up with something like this and you say, oh wait, that's exactly what I wanted to begin with. I don't want to go too short. I want to keep it long and see how I like it, how I can style it, and if it's practical for me. And then go and do a curtain bang if you want. If this is what you intended to get with a curtain bang, just that effect, that layering effect, well, this might be enough for you. But these are actually long face framing layers. But yeah, I love it. I think it's easy to do. So in the end, I hope this video was useful. I hope you'll be able to follow it if you choose to do this kind of haircut. And if you do, go ahead, leave me a comment. I love reading them. And that's it. Until the next time when I do the curtain bangs. See you then. Bye.